Sean, what is up, brother? 2 weeks in a row. To what do I owe this pleasure? Actually, I know what it is. Kip's gallivanting around Europe instead of doing his work here at Order a Man. I'm not sure why he's choosing to do that, but it is what it is.
I don't,
I'm
it,
he's with
no,
his family. I've seen pictures. I'm like, why is he doing that? He should be recording Ask Me Anythings with me. I don't get it. It doesn't compute. I
no
think he's
offense
having a
to
good
all the
time though.
guys in Europe, but it's not my favorite place to go,
It's kind of like
but I get
I feel a little bit like Ron Swanson. There was an episode in Parks and Rec where I think he was going to London or he was in London, and he was like, "Why would I go to London? Like history started in 1776, and nothing before that actually really mattered." And
it.
I will say, I felt like that in a lot of ways. I'm like, man, why would I go anywhere else? I haven't seen all of the United States yet. We have so much amazing uh, things to look at. And then I went to London because I was invited years and years ago on London Real with Brian Rose's podcast. And I actually really, really enjoyed it. I did not think that I would, but my wife and I went, my ex-wife and I went, and it was an incredible, incredible trip. So I get it now, but it took me a little
It's
while to
cool.
get
I
convinced.
like London. It's one of those places. And when I say Europe, that's obviously too broad,
Of
right?
course,
There's
right, of
there's
course.
some places where I'm
He's in
like, not
Spain.
another castle, right? Like there's only so many castles and so many,
I don't know,
because
man.
that's the
That's pretty
majority of the
rad.
stuff you go see. It's cool. But when you've
Yeah.
seen like 50 of them, then you're like,
What, you've
okay, there's
seen
only
one, you've
so
seen them
many to
all
see.
kind of attitude. Man,
Kinda.
wouldn't it be
Except
nice,
Rome.
Sean?
Dude, Rome's insane. Rome is
Yeah, I want to go
ridiculous
to
how cool
Rome.
that is.
Ireland has been on my list of places. Scotland's on my list.
Athens
So,
is cool too, Greece. The really,
oh, I
really
bet.
old stuff. I mean, when you're looking at stuff that's thousands of years old,
Yeah.
and
The thing that
so
really stood out to me in London was, and I can't remember the exact date, maybe about 600 or 700 years ago. You guys are, correct me if I'm way off on that. I might be, but you can actually see where William Wallace was tried, and that's
mm,
pretty cool. Like that was cool. There's just so it's really interesting in London, and I'm sure a lot of other places that are like this as well in Europe. Our history, we're so immature. America, when it comes to the rest of the world, we obviously got a lot of things figured out, but as far as our history goes, very, very, very new, relatively speaking. But what was cool in London is you would see, Westminster Abbey, you'd see some of these old buildings and castles and palaces, and then right next to it, you'd see this big, amazing, brand new, skyscraper and building, and it was really interesting the
yeah,
juxtaposition, if I could say that, between old and new. It's very interesting. It's cool.
yeah, yeah. We went and saw the changing of the guard when we were there,
Oh
and
yeah,
so you're sitting in that castle specifically is the oldest one in all of London. That's where like literally kings and queens used to live, and it was just crazy, like you said, like number one, gratitude and like how good we have it because we live better in the US than kings and queens used to live, not even that long ago.
oh for sure.
And
That's
and then
Buckingham Palace, right?
no, Buckingham's where they live now. It's
Oh,
it's where they hold the crown jewels. It's called oh my gosh, guys are gonna hate me out there for not remembering
who
the name of
cares?
it.
Doesn't really
But
matter.
whatever it is, right? It's the oldest place. It's where they do the changing of the
Oh
guard. It's
yeah,
where they
it's
hold the
oh no, I was thinking Tower of London, which is where we went as
it is
well.
the
That
Tower
was
of
pretty
London.
cool. Is that where it is? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then you're looking at, like you said, you're sitting in that place and everything's so old and there's all that history. And then you're looking at the rest of the city, right?
Right.
Along the river there. And it's like kind of surreal. It's
Yeah.
cool and
The crown jewels were cool
surreal.
to see as well. Did you see that? That was pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah, we saw them. We did like it was an interesting private tour thing. We actually had dinner there. It was like a
Oh,
five
sorry,
course
private
dinner
tour.
and
Oh,
it was
okay. Wow.
crazy,
Oh.
dude. It was unreal. I didn't set it up. But it was phenomenal.
Oh,
It
that's
was one of
awesome.
those weird, rare, cool things. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man.
Anyways,
Well, cool. Well, glad to have you back for 2 weeks in a row. Everybody always appreciates your insight and input, and as do I. So let's get to some questions today.
all right. These are all from Facebook, and we'll start with Joshua Trot. It's an easy question. Quick question. How to overcome complacency?
So I saw all these questions before and I gave it some thought because I knew, I want to be somewhat prepared as I'm talking with these guys. There's a lot of different ways. Number one, you can get kicked in the balls. I mean, that's one way. That's like the
Yeah,
worst way to do it.
that's
But
which unfortunately is how most people get their ass in
I
gear.
know you'll figure it out really quickly when you have a medical problem, and you realize, man, I'm 80 pounds overweight or more, and I've got diabetes or some other medical condition, heart problems, blood pressure issues. And you realize, oh my goodness, I might die prematurely because of this.
Mm.
Or, as I've talked a little bit about with your relationship, your wife comes to you and says, hey, I'm out, I'm done, or I'm not in love with you, or, whatever she might say. And then you realize, wait, what? And you realize you were in complacency, or in your business, a competitor sneaks up behind you and pulls out some of your market share because you've been coasting, you know, relying on your laurels to get you past whatever you're dealing with now. So that's one way. I would suggest that we don't get that way into that place. Uh, but what I would say the best way to do it, because it's hard because sometimes you're just in it, right? And you think we're so good as men at deceiving ourselves. I know I have been in my life, especially over the past little bit. I've had a lot of success in certain aspects of my life and just assume, man, I'm good. Like, this is awesome. I'm good. I'm great. But one of the things I failed to do was to surround myself with other really motivated, high achieving men. And I have a lot of guys in my corner. I have a lot of guys in my proximity, but I began to isolate myself quite a bit. And I didn't think I was better than anyone else necessarily, but I kind of put myself on an island and assumed that nobody knew what I was dealing with, or there wasn't anybody on the same level, this kind of stuff. And looking back on it now, I wish I would have spent more time with you, Sean. I wish I would have spent more time with Kip. I wish I would have spent more time with other high caliber men, because then I would have seen what they're doing, you and those guys are doing relative to what I was doing, and realized, whoa, man, maybe I don't have it all figured out. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe there are some deficiencies in what I'm doing currently. And I think it would have helped motivate me and inspire me to do something more than I was currently doing. So in addition to getting your ass handed to you, surrounding yourself with killers. I mean, I'm not talking just about on the business or financial front. I'm talking about health and relationships and other aspects of life. And then outside of that, if you already know that you're in a level of complacency, it's like in a rut. Sometimes you just have to kind of jerk the wheel a bit and pop yourself up out of that rut and stop doing things the same way, stop doing the same routines, stop engaging in the same behaviors, stop doing the same activities and hobbies, and just mix everything up. Because if you mix everything up, you're going to see things in a different light. You're going to have a different perspective. You're going to have new ideas and new ways of looking at things. And you're going to be introduced to new people, and it's going to expand your horizon. So that's what I've got. I mean, there's an infinite number of ways to do this, but that's what I've got. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
I would have said the exact thing. But the only thing I would maybe add to it is that you have to catch yourself in complacency and then do something about it. So I heard this a long time ago when I'd started my business. There was a guy, not necessarily a mentor of mine, but just a guy who's much better at this and had been doing it for, a couple decades already by the time I had started. And he had this great advice that if you want to do more with your life, and he was talking specifically business, but this applies to anything. It's like, if you want to do more, we all have time in the day to do more, on the things that are important, if we make the time to do those things. But when you're first starting that journey, and as I say that, there's probably some high achieving guys that are like, I don't have that much time in the day. Like maybe you're already good at these things. So maybe I'm not talking to you specifically, but when you're starting the journey, of not allowing yourself to fall into complacency, and you start achieving more and you start doing better in all these areas we're talking about, and before that's a habit, you have to catch yourself in the things that are wasting time, in the things that are not serving you, in the things that are not helping you to be better. And so the way he explained it was, if you're still in your old habits, which for most people is, maybe you watch sports all day on the weekends and that's your thing and that's what you love to do, but you're saying, oh man, it's I'm not spending enough time with my kids or my wife, or I'm not making that much money. And so many people get caught in this, woe is me, I'm not doing, what I need to. And then their default is to just chill out. And so he said it like, catch yourself in those moments. And as soon as you do, let's say you're watching TV, turn off the TV and
Right.
then do
Immediately.
whatever you need to do to get you the results, to get you out of that circumstance. And so, which again, he was talking business. So he's like, if you catch yourself watching football on a Saturday or on a Sunday or whatever you do, immediately turn off the TV, grab your phone and start making phone calls and just replace those activities that don't serve you with the ones that do. And so I took that into every part of my life of, okay, if I find myself literally just sitting around doing something that doesn't serve one of the areas of my life that needs to improve, I'll stop, turn off whatever I'm doing, and just replace it with whatever things that serve me. And like you said, it could be anything. It could be, maybe I just walk into the other room with my wife and have a conversation with her about just how she's feeling, what's going on, just what the week's going to look like, whatever. Maybe I'll walk up and find out what one of my kids is doing and start a conversation with them and ask them to go outside, even if it's just to go for a walk, whatever. Maybe it's something in business. Maybe it's middle of the day like this and there's stuff that needs to be done around the house. I don't know. But if I catch myself in, I guess in this circumstance, we'll call it complacency, it's taking action and jumping in. I talked
Yeah.
about this a couple when Kip and I were here, when you couldn't make it a few weeks ago. I was talking about this, and that's why I joined the IC. Is I found myself, I wasn't doing bad in my life.
Right. Right.
It wasn't, things were great, but I didn't feel like I was doing my best. I felt like I could be better. I felt like I needed something, and so I put myself in this environment just to try it out. And here I am 3.5 years later, and obviously actively engaged in our mission and what we're doing, and it makes me better. And second thing I'll add is, it doesn't just have to be the highest caliber man. Sometimes it's putting yourself in service to other men, because
Mm.
getting into this group, I did get around guys that it just made me realize there's more focus I could have had than I had at the time. And that got my butt in gear for that. But then also simultaneously, I'm in a position in my life where I just automatically end up in more mentoring or coaching or leadership roles, I guess you could say, and it triggered other things outside of the IC, but even inside, there's a lot of value to be around and help guys. I mean, you obviously know because it's your group, but I get enough messages just from some of the things that we do from guys in the IC, just asking advice or help or whatever it is. And so that helps keep me fresh and actively engaged in being my best, because now you have to not just be around it, but actively engaged in making sure that if you're going to be giving advice or people are going to be asking you, you want to make sure that you're, doing what you're saying. And so it
Yeah.
keeps you
Yeah.
out of complacency as well.
You said a couple of things that stood out to me. Stuck out. I'm gonna make that a new word. Stuck out to
It's a
me.
good one. I like it.
Yeah. Stand and I don't know what I was trying to combine that with, but regardless, stuck out to me. Uh, Number one is you said I wasn't doing bad. And look, I've said that exact same thing. That's such a dangerous place.
Oh, it's
It's
the
not
worst. It's the
crushing
most
it
dangerous, I
and
think.
it's not doing horribly. If you're doing horribly, that's actually a better place to be than, hey, I'm not doing bad.
Yeah.
Because if you know you're failing, at least you're real about that. And then you can actively work on what you need to improve. I have been in this mode of, hey, I'm not doing bad. I'm doing pretty good. That's a bad place to be. So that's one thing. The other thing that you said, I'm a stickler on the language on this one. And there's an important reason why, but people will say, oh, I just got to make the time. Don't say that. I don't think we should say that because you can't manufacture time. It's impossible. And when we say, I just got to make time, what does that mean? Where do you think you're going to pull time from? It's,
Hmm.
it's, it's a delusional saying. Like, we don't make time. We manage time. That's it. That's all we can do. And so the reason this is so important is because if you just say, I'll make time, like, you're not going to be able to do that because it's not possible. But if you say, I'll manage my time more effectively, then I think you will begin to look at the things like watching all the baseball games on Saturday or whatever and realize that maybe I should just watch one. Like, I don't have anything wrong with a guy disengaging, watching a game, enjoying a game with maybe his family or friends. We do fight nights. I on Saturday we watch Adesanya fight and Burns fight and all these guys. Like, that's
Dude, that
fine.
was
I have no.
so good, man.
Oh, amazing,
By the way, that
amazing,
was
so
crazy.
amazing. And then his
Oh,
celebration with the arrows after. I'm
woo.
like, dang, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, we do that because it's deliberate and it's intentional. It's not just, hey, I just like fluff or fill this stuff in. It's like, no, I'm going to do that on purpose because me and my boys can enjoy that time together over something that we all like. So let's get rid of the, hey, I'll just find the time or I'll make the time. No, be deliberate. And you know what? You might say, hey, that's not important to me. Like, I can't make time to go work out, but just I'd rather you say that's not important to me than say, oh, I'll make time at some point in the future to do that. Just say it's not important. At least you're being honest. And
That's
that's what I'm trying to do is be honest about my assessment of my performance.
I'm glad you pointed that out because I meant to say it because when I heard it from that guy, I wrote it down back then, and it's going to be funny because you just talked about the importance of it. He said you place importance on your time. So you called it managing your time. I've always called it placing importance on your time
Same,
and
right?
acting
Yeah.
accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. What's next?
Awesome. Next question is from Jack Duquesne. He says, what are the top 5 things that would be essential to a good business proposal to gain a new client who currently uses a competitor to provide a service?
So I'm not going to get into the top 5 things and give you a laundry list of items. I'm going to answer the way that I think is going to be best for you. There is a great book that I read years and years ago. Sean, you may have read this one. It's called The Selling Chronicles. Does that sound
Mm-mm.
familiar to you? Oh, you should read
No.
that. Like,
Yeah, I'm gonna write it
for
down now.
you as an advisor for the men and women who you coach and train, this thing revolutionized my financial planning practice. It's called The Selling Chronicles. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but it's a great book. And it is specifically relates to the financial services industry, but it would apply broadly. So here's what I would say as far as a business proposal goes. I'm not good at that stuff. I'm not good at like the numbers and the logistics and the planning. And here's a proposal for you. But you know what I am really good at? I'm really good at getting to the root of people's problems. And if you read that book, you'll understand what I mean. But the best thing that you can do is you can ask questions because here's what's going to happen. Let's say I get really good. Let's say, Sean, I'm trying to solicit your business for I don't know, I'm just seeing some signs behind you for printing signs. Okay. You need some signs printed up and I'm trying to solicit your business. I really need to figure out what your current situation is. I don't look, if I come to you with a business proposal and it's beautiful and it's like laser printed and it's laminated and it's got beautiful marketing and coloring and it doesn't address the issue you're dealing with, I might as well just throw that in the trash. It's a useless piece of junk. If, on the other hand, I come to you and I say, hey, Sean, I see some signs behind you and man, those look really cool. Do you like that material? Do you not? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? And I start to figure out what's going well with your current vendor and what isn't working well. Okay, now I have some area that I can focus on. If you come to me and say, yeah, I love the quality of this stuff, that order a man flag and the revolution sign behind me, I love the quality, but man, if the guy doesn't take 3 months to get a project done,
Hmm.
boom, game over. I already know what I need to do now. I don't need to focus on price. I don't need to focus on quality. Of course, I want it to be quality. It needs to be as good as, if not better than what you currently have. But I know the issue is time. And so I make everything about that. And so what I might say, especially if maybe I'm a smaller company, I might say, man, I know those big companies, yeah, they do great work and they have access to some amazing materials and products. But because they're so large and bloated, sometimes you become just another cog in the wheel. Projects get lost, bigger projects come in, your project gets pushed to the back burner. That's just the nature of big business. I'm going to get to that point at some point, and hopefully I can manage that. But you know what? The advantage we have right now is that it's me, our sales team, and our administrative team. And when you call us, you're talking with us. When we have a project come in, I don't care if it's one flag or 3,000 banners for the biggest real estate agent in town. We treat all of those with the utmost importance because it's very, very important to our business that we serve you and our clients effectively. So if I could get you the same quality of product or even better, because I think I might be able to, but I could get it to you in an appropriate time, will you give me a shot? I'm not saying you have to do all your orders with me, but give me a shot. What do you think? I just saved you time. I saved me time. I focused on what was important. And I guarantee I pick up a sale. I might not pick it all up right now, but I'm going to pick something up and I'm putting my little foot in the door. And gradually, I'm going to get myself inside because I'm going to do a phenomenal job for you. That's the angle I would take by asking good questions, by figuring out what the pain points are, figuring out where you're struggling, not to beat another company up. We're not going to do that, but just to figure out what angle I need to take to get in there. And the Selling Chronicles talks a lot about this, which is very, very powerful.
Mm, nailed it. That was awesome. And make sure that you deliver on all those things that you
Yes, of
say.
course.
That is something I see this as you were talking about that. It made me think of, we have a few like big 401ks that we manage. Like Southwest Airlines, Red Bull, and so we've gotten some deals like that and not really trying, but it's interesting looking back at when I started my business. The reason we got those is what you're talking about. They didn't like the service side of their
Mm-hmm.
existing
Most of the
plans.
time, that's what it is.
Yeah, well, especially in that space, right? Because they set it up and you might have a Fidelity or whatever, which has a lot of great choices and options and low price, but then there's one time a year where they do their enrollment and someone comes in, they're out, they know nothing about anybody, they don't really help you. The 800 numbers not helpful or whatever, right? And
Or goes to
so,
India or something. And it's, yeah, man.
yeah,
Right.
and so, we would now I could say, hey, we can come in. I have enough guys in my organization that if we set up this plan for you, like they'll have direct access to us, to me, to an advisor, to someone who will sit down and specifically look at everything for them that about their current financial situation and help them utilize the 401k to its best ability for their situation. It's a service ad that nobody adds that we're willing to do for you. And so, like you said, give us a shot. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. Like that's what we did at Southwest. We don't manage all of their stuff, but we probably manage about 20%. And that was it. Like, but I wouldn't have done that when I started because I didn't have the capacity. Does that make sense? Like I couldn't have
Yeah.
promised that I could give that time or have the people to give that time when it didn't exist in my organization yet, when I didn't have enough people to fill that need. So if you take it and get overwhelmed by the volume you can't deliver, that's worse.
Right.
So make sure that everything you put in that proposal, you can deliver on.
That word proposal, I just hate that word even.
Yeah.
Like, I've never had to deal in proposals. And I don't want to. And I'm not saying there isn't a situation where I wouldn't. Maybe there is because there's some legalities of something I'm doing for sure. But or that they want some structure, definitely understand. But one other thing I was going to say is if you come in with a proposal for somebody who thinks everything is just perfect, what in the world are you doing? What a waste of time. Like I want to figure that
Hmm.
out quick. I actually want to disqualify you. To go back to what I was saying earlier, if we come in with banners, you're like, oh yeah, I love our banners. Price is awesome. Service is phenomenal. The guy's my brother-in-law. Like, why am I going to come to you with a proposal?
Yeah.
What a colossal waste of my time and yours, by the way. So I'm just going to cut my losses and say, hey, that's awesome. If anything changes, here's my card. Mind if I check in on you every few months or whatever? And then I'm going to move on because I don't want to get bogged down in that. I really don't. The other thing I would say, one last thing is just get good at asking questions because it means that you actually care. And I'm not talking about interviewing or like grilling them on what they're doing. And just get good at asking questions. The best way you can do that is in your everyday interactions. I was at the gym this morning and there was a person on a machine next to me. And I just said, hey, how I said to the person, because I'm trying to connect with people. I'm like, hey, that like I've never seen this machine before. Have you had a lot of success with it? And that's it. And that opened up a great conversation. People make it
Hmm.
so much more complicated than it needs to be. I just said, hey, I've never used that machine. Have you had a lot of success with it? And the guy's like, yeah, I love it. I've been using it every week for the past couple of years. And here's how I implement it. Here's what it's been helping me with. And that just opened a conversation. That's not hard. It's very easy, but we make it often more complicated than it needs to be. So if you can focus on asking good questions and do it to strangers as a game, like how many people can you meet today by just
Hmm.
asking questions? You see a guy in the McDonald's line or wherever you're at, say, hey, those are cool boots. Where'd you get those? I'm looking for a new pair of boots. Right. Or you see a woman in the line and say, hey, I like that purse. My wife, I'm actually thinking about getting my wife a purse for Mother's Day or for her birthday. Like, I don't know, is that a good one? Like, it's so easy. And
Hmm.
yet we make it more complicated than it needs to be. So that's another thing I'd focus on too.
That was awesome.
Cool. What's next?
Um, David Osburnson. Sorry, David. Do you believe psychology plays a very big role in economics? I've been reading Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. He says people's attitudes very much play a role in how the market works. So do you believe
I
psychology
almost
plays a very big role in economics?
I almost think this is just a rhetorical question. It's like, of course,
Yeah.
it's the single greatest factor of economics. We often think that money, and you're talking to a couple guys who have some experience, Sean, you more than me. Like we often think money is just numbers.
Hmm.
Well, if that was the case, then all of us would be independently wealthy because we all know how to add and subtract.
Yeah. Well,
Like if it
can
was
I
just
can
money,
I step in just real quickly? Like to you
sure,
and
yeah,
I think it seems like, of course, because we understand it. Does that make sense? Like now think in a
yeah,
sense of the
fair,
large majority
fair.
of people out there really don't have an understanding of the economy of the markets of those things. And so maybe from that standpoint, right? Like
Fair enough. Fair
um
enough. So I'll answer and
maybe
say
think in those
say
terms. Yeah.
yes. Absolutely. Think about the last thing that you bought. Did you need it?
Hmm.
I'm trying to think about the last thing I bought. What did I buy? I can't even remember. I know I didn't need it, obviously, because if I needed it, I probably would remember what it actually was. Oh, you know what it was? A PlayStation. Did I need a PlayStation? Of course, I did not need a PlayStation, but I got it. Why? Okay, here's my why. Because I thought it'd be a fun way to be able to spend a little time with the kids playing games. And I thought, hey, if I've got this PlayStation, the kids will be more likely to want to have their friends over here than go to their friend's house. So we have the community here. Like those are all emotional desires. Has nothing to do with this logical. Now, look, I was a little bit logical in the way that I rationalized and justified it, but it was only to support my emotional decision, which is I want to be around the kids. I want to connect with them. I want them to invite their friends over. Obviously we're going to have rules in place and things like that. That's an emotional based decision. That's psychology. It's all
Mhm.
that is. So I don't, I know of the book, Thinking Fast and Slow. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know of the book. I don't know the premise of the book. I've seen it and I've heard things about it, but I haven't read it or don't know the premise. So I can't speak on that. But yeah, I think once we realize that it is psychology, then we can use that to our advantage by really pondering whether or not we should make purchases, and we can make smarter decisions. But we can also use it. I mean, look, let's be honest. Order Man is also a business. Now we happen to be in a business that I love, a business that I really believe that we have solutions to offer people. But when I talk about the Iron Council, for example, like I don't give you a laundry list of benefits and why the cost analysis is makes sense and what your rate of return on the investment is. Like this, have you heard me talk about that? No. You hear me talk about your struggles. You hear me talk about why having other men in your corner is important. You hear me talk about this accountability that you build in. You hear me talk about a battle team. You hear me talk about all these things that are emotionally charged, not logically driven. And then we support it with the data. We support it with the success. We support it with the rate of return. But it starts first and foremost with our emotional wants and desires.
Yeah. And it's worse now than it ever has been because the way we communicate, because of social media, because the interaction that we're able to have with each other has made it worse because you get so much information and people aren't like, they don't know what to listen to anymore. It's almost like there's too much information, right? When you Google anything, like depending on the rabbit hole you end up down, you could end up down the rabbit hole of why it's bad or why it's good. And so it's hard to discriminate between what to listen to. And so it's led towards more and more emotional charge in the information that we get. And
Sean, there's a couple. Can I just interject real quick? Because there's a
yeah,
couple people that come to mind as you say that. So one comes to mind is Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson is brilliant. Like there's
he's
no doubt
brilliant.
about it. He's brilliant. He's intelligent. He's brilliant. I don't think that he's particularly well spoken, but he certainly has a large vocabulary. But he is brilliant. Brilliant. Well, when you listen to him, he's taken concepts a lot from philosophers, mostly young, and he distills that in a new way, a new way of looking at it, a practical way, a way that resonates clearly with tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people. So it's, yeah, you could say that information is already out there, but he's distilling that information into a package that people appreciate. Another great example of that is Ryan Holiday. Now, we can talk about the politics, and I know people will until we're blue in the face. I disagree with a lot of his politics, and I think that some of the things that he says are antithetical to what he says he believes. But regardless, he's known as the Stoic guy, right? But there's plenty of Stoics that have come before, and what does he do? He takes Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius and other important Stoics, and he takes their information, repackages it, puts it in a way that is convenient and digestible to a group of people, and then offers that. And I'm actually, the way I'm saying it sounds like it's negative about Jordan Peterson and Ryan Hall. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying they're offering a valuable service by taking information that's hard to digest, consuming it, repackaging it, and delivering it in a way that lands with people. That's a very powerful service. And it's one that we're going to continue to see as being important, especially when you say things like, and I agree with you, that there's too much information. So now
Yeah.
you can be the middle guy. Hey, how do we take all this information, strip everything that we don't need, repackage everything that we do, and present it in a way that will help you improve your life? That's all we're doing here with Order of Man, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Shocker. I
Yeah.
let the cat out of the bag on that one.
Well, it's just so
Not my
comical.
ideas,
Some of the,
guys.
yeah, but it's so comical. Some of the stuff you see, if we're talking about the markets, I forget what Elon Musk said. Like he's one of those, right? Where literally giant companies, stock prices go up and down based on things he says. Just he could say, He did
or
it
does.
with mining
Remember what?
Bitcoin when he
Yeah,
said, like, he said that the
yeah,
mining conditions for Bitcoin are hard for the guys mining the Bitcoin. And literally it went down, and
right.
people thought like physically there was guys in poor living conditions mining this stuff, where he said it as a joke. And all of a sudden, you know, HUD
Yeah,
8 or whatever, these mining companies like took a big hit
yeah.
in their
It's even more
in
benign
their
than that.
business.
I
But it was
remember
like
when
so
took
ridiculous.
a he took a hit, some marijuana on Joe Rogan's podcast, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
markets responded to that. Like,
Yeah.
tell me that's not an emotionally
Oh,
driven response. It's not a
oh.
logical one. It's an emotionally driven response. It
Mm.
always is.
Yeah. When people decided they didn't like him anymore because he bought Twitter and was doing everything he was, and the Twitter files he made available and all of that, and how it affected Tesla. It had nothing to do with Tesla at all. They're still
No.
like fundamentally, they're killing it on paper. They have all these things in the works. There's all this growth still. They're selling more cars than anyone else in the world. And they went from, I don't know, it was like 600 down to like 110 or 111 or something like
That
that
big.
for the
Wow.
stock price. It was
Interesting.
giant, and it just took this giant hit, because people don't like him, really, is what it comes down to it. Right now, I guarantee you most of the people that sold that stock or devalued it or whatever else, they weren't just looking at fundamentals, right? And it's
No,
almost
of course
comical.
not.
You look at some of the stuff happening out there. Um,
There's a good book
it's
that I
really
would
weird.
suggest reading, and that is Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. A very interesting one. He goes in and he studies different methods of con artists, actually. And so some people say, "Oh, you shouldn't read that," because no, it like he's just studying different methods by con art, and you can actually use those same methods in a moral, high principled way. You don't have to
Yeah.
use those things to take advantage of people, but you should know them because you can use them to your advantage to build your business or influence, which is why it's called influence. Or you can also keep that information in mind to avoid being scammed and taken advantage of.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look at one of the highest selling books of all time, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I mean, it's
Right.
in the title, right? It seems like a
Right.
weird title, but it's one of the best books ever written
Yeah.
for growing, being better, making impact. Yeah, awesome.
Cool. All right.
Okay,
What's
next
next?
one. Dirk Hare. Oh my gosh, don't have my glasses. Harema. Wasn't sure if that was R-N or M. I think it's M. Dirk Harema. How does one show themselves grace? This sure was a downfall in my previous relationship that led to divorce. My ex-wife always asked why I was never content with where I was and why I was always so hard on myself. I never had an answer for her, and I still don't. But what I've realized is that some things are out of my control, and I actually don't need to be that hard on myself. I just don't know where to start. So how does
So
one show themselves grace?
this is a question I saw. I saw all these questions, most of them, I think. And this is one that I saw. And this is one I actually really don't have an answer to. And again, I told you I'm going to try to be honest and lead with honesty and integrity. And I could make up some bullshit answer about how you can afford yourself some grace. I don't know, man. But there is one thing I do know. And and that's a little shift in my mindset about the way I view myself and take care of myself. And that is that I'm worthy of taking care of myself. That and I'm not just saying taking care of myself in all the hard charging ways that we talk about, because those come easy to me. And I think those come more naturally to a lot of guys. Physically, you need to take care of yourself. Financially, you need to be providing financially. We know all that. And so we put a lot of weight on our shoulders. And I actually think rightfully so. It should be on our shoulders. And we put a lot of weight on our shoulders to ensure that we're physically fit, to make sure that our finances are taken care of. When they're not, we know it and we feel horrible about it. And I think that we should have some shame and guilt about that because it'll drive us to doing things different. But there's another aspect that I've overlooked for a long time, and that is my emotional well-being and my spiritual well-being. And as I've thought about my own personal failings over the past several months. And look, I'll have more and more. I mean, I know this isn't the end of my failings, but I know I'll have more. Is that I can afford myself more grace because I know I'm worthy of being taken care of. And I know I'm worthy of investing in myself, not in the things I've always invested in. I will continue to do that, but I need to invest in my emotional health. I need to figure out why I feel the way I feel, why I do the things I do. I got upset about something that, I think I should be upset about yesterday, but maybe I didn't handle it as well as I could have. Nothing horrible, but in reviewing it, I'm like, oh, I could have done that a little differently, and I will next time. Allowing myself to relax, allowing myself to experience painful things like sorrow and grief and sadness and anger, trying to get closer to God and relinquishing some of my own perceived sovereignty over my life and realizing, hey, I don't have everything under control, but doing my best to take care of myself, not just physically, financially, but the areas of improvement I've needed have been the spiritual realm and the emotional realm. And that has been helpful, very helpful for
Mm.
me over the past little bit.
It I saw this too, and I was trying to think of, I know a lot of people like what he's talking about, and what stands out to me is that he is asking, maybe him and her both kind of asked the wrong questions. And obviously it's too late. Like, one of the things that he said is that she always asked why I was never content with where I was. And I think she worded it wrong. I mean, maybe that bothered her, but I'm assuming the reason it bothered her is because he was putting so much time and effort into whether it was his business or something. It just sounds like it was outside of her. And so he wasn't putting in enough time into the things that
She
she
may not have
felt
even
was
said that
important.
though.
Yeah, she might not have, but that's just from the question. I just had that thought, like, did it just comes down to communication at the end of all of it, is because you're going to be one of the two. You're either going to push in people's opinions too hard or not enough. I don't think anybody ever finds that perfect balance in between the two. You're either not going to push hard enough in someone's eyes, or you're going to push too much. But I think the real
Well, Sean, I
question is,
think, go
like,
ahead.
I think we answered it in one of the earlier questions, is um placing an importance on your time. What's important? What's more important? And you mentioned spiritual and mental is for most people, and we don't know we're doing it, it's the last thing on our list of important things,
Of course, I got too
when
many other
it should
important
be,
things to do.
yeah, which it should be at the top of the list. And it's not, unfortunately. And I think that helps for both types, whether you don't push hard enough or you maybe push yourself too hard, is still placing enough importance on those things so that it doesn't all blow apart, because you could get too extreme on either side of the spectrum.
Of course.
And whoever you're with, whether it's your business relationships, in a marriage, with your kids, whatever it is, um, they're going to have different personalities too, and they're going to have different expectations and things that they think are the way to do things. And so I think the importance of communication in those things is also good. And I think the most important thing in here is how he's not blaming her, whether she asked the right questions or he did. The thing I did like is that he doesn't seem to blame her, that he's looking for a real solution as to, where he went wrong, and where he can start to maybe fix some of those things. My answer in that would be just to communicate better next go around. Maybe ask deeper into those questions. Hey, you say I push too hard and I'm working too hard. Why do you say that? Or maybe the next person that he's in a relationship is the opposite. Maybe she pushes him even harder than he pushes himself, and he finds himself, not being able
Yeah.
to do good enough for her because she's even gnarlier than him. Who knows, right? But either
Hmm.
way, you have to be willing to ask the right questions, as and get ahead of it if possible. Not do it when it's too late.
I
I
I
don't
do
know
want to
how.
say that I think we ought to be careful of saying things like it's too late or the next go around. And I think we need to be, look, I'm not saying that you're going to reconcile your relationship. It's not what I'm saying. But if you say it's too late, it adds a finality to it. It's like, well, it's done is done. Like, it's like, no, it's like, you don't have to look at it that way. Maybe
Mhm.
that relationship uh, is, is it John Kim talks about, he was on my podcast, has expired. I wish I had his book. I have his book. I think it's in the closet, but
Mm.
he talks about relationships expiring as opposed to ending. It's just an interesting reframe. And of course, there's nuance to his definitions of it. But let's not put the final pin in everything. And then if we say next go around, then I think what that connotates is that when you find another woman or you're married again, then you'll fix it. No, like we have to fix it now.
Mhm.
If we fix the things now, our relationship issues now, the things, the baggage that we brought to the table now, if we communicate more effectively with people now, then when that happens, we'll be in a much better place to address that or even be in the position to find love again. But if we're waiting for like, oh, the next time I'll do better. It's like, what about now? Like, what about today? It's the same thing when people say, oh yeah, I can't wait till Friday. Bro, it's Monday morning. That's 5 days from now.
uh,
Like I never understand. I don't. Oh, I can't wait till
that
Friday.
drives me
Man,
crazy
we need
too.
to change our lives around if that's what we're waiting for. So there's that. The other thing is let's assume that she did say that. I'm going to give you what I think, and I don't know, but what I think, or maybe what I would have you consider based on my own evaluation of my struggling relationship. Maybe you can think otherwise, but I just let me throw this out there. Maybe when she said, "Why is it never enough for you?" Maybe she didn't use the right subject. Maybe what she actually meant was, "Why am I not enough for you?"
Yeah.
Now she might have said, "Why is it never enough?" And what she might have meant was, "Why am I not enough?
Mm.
Why are you out doing work? Why are you out serving these people? Why are you out doing this when I want you here? I want you. Like I know this about my own relationship. And I would say is because I care about you. And so I'm out providing for the family and I'm doing what I think is important. And also I have other goals and desires outside of our relationship that are important to me. And now looking back, I'm like, yeah, I have to put food on the table, but maybe that did come at the expense of her. And I would say that she is enough, but I didn't show it the way that she needed it to be shown.
Mm.
So think about that. Because sometimes look, she may not have said that even, but if that's what she said, there may have been some reading between the lines that we could have done a better job on. And I think it's important we look at that because, again, that will help as we grow and as we develop and as we mature in our ability to have conversations and relationships with friends and significant others.
Yeah. Good point. Good stuff. All right. Next one is Adam Colin Sharp. It says how to have better focus on a task or goal and not overthink. I tend to overthink too much, especially on some assignments I have for law school. Yet I'm also trying to give myself some grace as a law student and remember that this is the season to practice and experiment what lawyers do.
Well, look, I don't have that problem. So my knee jerk reaction was just stop doing it.
Yeah.
Just take action. And I'm like, that sounds right. But that's coming from a guy who doesn't overthink things. In fact, if anything, I underthink things. I
Yeah, me
tend to
too.
I tend to go a little soon. So yeah, how do you do that? I think maybe I don't know. Man, some of these I just don't have good answers for. I might say that a good question you can ask yourself is, does this really deserve the weight I'm giving it? If you're going in for brain surgery and you're performing brain surgery, probably overthinking it is probably a good thing.
Hmm.
But if you're wondering if you should go to Tony Roma's or Outback Steakhouse, probably just pick one. How do I know? You don't know it, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't deserve the weight that you're giving it. So stop doing that. So look, I think that's what I would suggest to you, so you can begin to make your own decisions on this weighted scale. The amount of time and attention I'm giving this, does it deserve that? If it does, okay, fair enough. If it doesn't, then you need to start making decisions more quickly and realizing that even if you do mess up and make the wrong decision, if it's not that important in the grand scheme of things, you can do that next time. And there's going to be a next time. So it's okay.
Yeah. I think it's for him, it comes with the territory. That's what lawyers do. They're
Of
paid to
course.
overthink. They're paid to
Right.
overthink for people that like me and like you that aren't going to do it for
That
ourselves.
get ourselves into trouble. You're there to rescue us and help us out of the trouble and the mess we get ourselves into.
But if it really bothers you that much, then practice and practice in little things. Maybe it could be as simple as, and you led to this, just making decisions from the hip. Like nobody wants a lawyer that makes his decisions from the hip. But if you need to practice taking more action, it could be like, okay, what do I want for lunch? And you're with a group of friends. Where do you want to go? I don't know. Where do you want to go? I don't know. Where do you want to go? And it's 20 minutes later, you're still trying to figure out where to go. If you start being the guy of, well, we're going to go to the salad bar, boom. And you just start walking with
But don't
everybody to the car
ever
to
don't but
go,
don't do that. Don't do
you
that.
know,
Go
don't go to the
get
salad bar,
no.
go
Like I can
somewhere
tell you right
good.
now, it's not the salad bar. Go ahead, proceed. I just had to interject with that there.
But either way, you like if somebody if
Exactly.
you
It's better than
Ryan
nothing,
might be
right?
in your group and be like, ew, but if you're walking and everyone else starts walking with you towards that thing, Ryan might not totally like it, but it's at least you
In
made the
which case
decision,
I should
right?
have made the decision,
Yes.
right? Like if I had a problem with it, then I should have been the one that made a decision, but I didn't. So I'll have to go along or eat by myself.
And if he grumbles the whole time, again, like you practice, that's actually actually made it even better. Because that's why people don't want to make decisions sometimes. They're worried about what other people think. They're worried about, is everyone going to like it? Is everyone going to feel good about my decision? Is right. And
Which
it's
is
just
no. And we
instead
already
of
know. Like if you just know that the answer is not everybody's going to like this, some people are going to be upset, some people are going to grumble, and you just know that, then it's like, okay, well, yeah.
yep. But
Anything else is an unrealistic expectation about how your decision is going to go.
it's still your decision to make. So,
Yes.
and I'll tell you this, you'll find more success in making decisions. And even if it's not the right decision all the time, you'll find more overall long-term success in making more decisions than not. I mean, that's what I see more than all the people that I've coached and mentored over the years. The ones that are successful have made decisions and maybe failed more, maybe made mistakes more. But it's the guys who are afraid to make those decisions that don't ever achieve the success that they want.
Well, look, like I don't know the numbers, but do you know how much money I've wasted in mistakes in the past 8 years? I would say hundreds of thousands of dollars,
Me too.
confidently, if not more. But I would say hundreds of thousands of dollars. Do you know how much I've made over the past 8 years? Tens of
Millions.
millions.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, it cost me some couple $100,000 to make millions. Like, that's a pretty good investment. I'll make that investment all day long, So it's typically not the end of the world. Unless like you have a big case, then yeah, you should overthink it. But also you should get the advice of other qualified people too that can help you. Like, hey, that's a good decision. You made a good decision there. Or hey, you're overthinking this. Or did you consider this? Those people will help you too, give you some frame of reference that you may not have on
Yeah.
your own.
And also remember, you're in law school. You're not defending Donald Trump right now. So this is your chance. This is your
Good
best
luck with
chance to
that.
make mistakes and make decisions and try things and navigate
Yeah.
through it. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Chris Dreitzler. I'm trying to help my oldest son. He's been struggling a lot due to some issues with his biological mother. I have custody of both my boys with my current wife, and he feels abandoned by his biological mother. She's still in the picture, but she never shows up for him in any ways in regards to his school or sporting events. He feels that her daughters with her new husband always come before him. How can I best support and help him through these tough times? He has confronted her about it, and she always makes excuses about why she can't show up for him.
I think this is an opportunity for you to teach your son about realistic expectations of others. And I also think it's an opportunity for you to help him develop some grace and understanding about other people's scenarios. It's hard, man,
Mm.
to believe that your mother doesn't care about you. I don't have that problem, fortunately. I actually thought that about my dad. I don't believe that now, but I did when I was younger. I thought that. So I know what it's like to be in this position. But I think this is a good moment in time for you to be able to sit down with your son and say, all right, bud, you know, it's hard. We have people that we love. We have people we care about. We have people that we want to build relationships with. And they, for whatever reason, either don't want to or can't to the degree that we would like them to. And unfortunately, that's beyond our control.
Mm.
That isn't anything that we can control. You can't do anything. You can't say anything. There isn't some magical phrase. There isn't some way that you could perform. That's a big one because then we start performing for other people. There isn't a way that you could perform. There isn't anything that you can do to get what you feel like you want from your mother. And you really need to have a lot of conversations about that, is that her decision making process is independent of him. And it's not,
Mm.
it's likely not connected. And there might be a little connection. I'll explain that in a minute. But it's likely not as connected as he thinks. Because what he thinks is she doesn't love me, she doesn't care about me. Maybe she's angry with me. He's jumping to all these conclusions about what she might be thinking. And that's probably not the case. Like, if we're looking at this as objectively as possible, that's probably not the case. So we need to explain that other people's decision making process cannot be dictated or controlled by what we do. That's one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is letting him know that people mess up and people make mistakes and people have reasons for doing things. And we don't have to like it. We don't have to appreciate it. We don't have to understand it. But we should consider that maybe she's distracted. Maybe she's trying to be a better mother than she was before, which is why she's so focused on her kids with her new husband. Maybe there's guilt. Maybe she's just guilt ridden about how she treated your family. And it's so painful to confront it that she avoids it. I would understand her wanting to do that if that's how she was feeling. But it's an opportunity for you to explore the way that she might be feeling with a bit of grace associated with it, and that she's making decisions the best that she knows how to. And then outside of that, so that's part two of the equation. Outside of that is you and your wife be the best that you can be for him. Show up, engage, be present. Hopefully, your now wife is doing the same. It sounds like she is, and she's a wonderful lady. And let him learn about her mothering him. And that might help fill that void a little bit. But again, I think that's the equation. Number one, can't control others. Number two, we can afford them grace, even if we're wrong. Like, let's say we're completely wrong, and let's say she is just a real piece of work and she's doing this out of spite and anger and vengeance. It could be, but even if we're wrong, it's just better to operate under that mentality than to believe she's being spiteful. And then again, the third part of the equation is for you and your now wife to be the support that he needs in his life.
Mm. When I saw this, I just figured I'd speak out of experience because I felt like your son. So and and I'm talking Chris, not Ryan.
Yeah.
But but I that was me, except my role was with my mom. I was with my mom, and my dad wasn't around, and he'd started a new family. I was 9 when he married my stepmom, and he did a fantastic job with my 3 brothers that they had together, and he was at everything, and he coached their baseball teams, and he did all that stuff. And I never had that experience with him. He like very rarely showed up to any sports and things like that. And I used to have those conversations with my mom. And I'll tell you where my mom failed is that she used to bash him. She
Mm.
used to say bad things about him. She used to say, see, that's why, he's a degenerate. He's not paying child support. He does, do these. And the thing is like, it didn't make me get more on my mom's side. It
Yeah.
actually, she didn't realize that it hurt me more than helped me hearing her say bad things about him. And it made me respect her less also. So one advice I'd give you is never, ever badmouth her for doing it. The two things I was going to say is never badmouth her, and you always be there. You support him. You show him, what it's like to parent somebody. And then, like Ryan nailed it when he said the same thing with your wife now and any kids that you may have now or whatever the circumstance. But and then when I was with my dad and I was with them and I was around, I had to go see him. He didn't come out to a lot of my stuff, but he was building a new family. And I didn't understand it at the time. I do now, and I totally get it. And I used to appreciate my mom's hard work for, and she didn't come to stuff either, but she was working 2 and 3 jobs at a time. So that's why she couldn't show up to stuff. And I didn't understand that as a young kid, why he wasn't at anything. But when she said bad things, it when I was around him, he was great. When I was there every other weekend, when we would go places and when we would do stuff, and when I was in that environment, it was fantastic. And what I started to realize is that, oh, he does have a new life. He does love me. It's not that he doesn't want to be at this stuff. He's just got these other things. It still wasn't ideal. I still didn't love it, but I understood it. And what I loved the most, what I respected most when I was with my dad is no matter what, he never said anything bad about my mom. And he did explain to me why he couldn't be at stuff. And when things would happen that were important to me and he would just say, hey, look, I'm sorry, this is what's happening. And he was honest with me, and I don't know if your ex, I don't know if his mom will ever get to that point with him, but all you can do is all you can do. Just support him, say good things about her. I think Ryan nailed it. He took it even a step further. And not only do you not say anything bad about her, but maybe help explain the circumstance to him, and what she may be feeling and help him out. Here's the thing. Ultimately, I don't think you're ever going to totally help him. It's a void that he wants to be filled, and unrealistically, maybe it won't. But I think with time and with age and whatever else, hopefully he'll figure it out. But if you can look back and have a good experience with you, that's the best you can do.
And I also think that's why you need to be honest about it and say, look,
Yeah.
people are going to let you down in life. Like none of this fairy tale fluffy BS because it's not real. You need to use this as a time to say, look, people are going to let you down. That is part of life. And you can get bitter about it. You can get upset about it. You can whine. You can complain. You can put on a dance and performance for these people. And you're just not going to get what you want. The sooner he realized, and I don't know how old he is, but I think he said his oldest. The sooner he
Yeah.
realizes that, I think the better off he's going to be. But it sounds like you're doing awesome. The last thing I would say on this is let this be a reminder for those of us who have children in these situations about the way that we should show up, both when the kids are with us and when they're not, and how we should be treating their mother. That's their you loved her at some point. That's their mother, and they're gonna be defensive, even if she doesn't deserve it. They're gonna
Mm.
be defensive. So you can create animosity and contention if you want. I don't understand doing that, but I'm not in a situation that's toxic, which I'm grateful for. Or you can create a loving, empathetic, kind, understanding, mature environment, which is what I want to create. And I think most of the guys listening want to create that too.
Yeah. I think they do, but I think unfortunately they land in more of the toxic realm.
Yeah.
Just
And I again, I'm not personally in that situation, so I don't fully understand it. And it's easy for me to say, don't be that way. Look, but I've heard and seen some stories that, man almighty,
mm,
it would be very tough to do, but you got to be tough. I mean, that's what's required as a father.
yeah. Um there's one, it's a book. It was written by a guy named Art Williams. I don't even think it's in print anymore, but it was called All You Can Do Is All You Can Do, and All You Can Do Is Enough. And just
Mm.
like that's always stuck with me in any circumstance. That's there's when there's factors outside of your control, sounds like you're doing the right
Yeah.
things, and that's enough.
There's another quote, and I think we were talking about Stoics earlier. This might be a Stoic philosopher, but he says, like, and I'm butchering this, but when we're concerned, he says, "Are you worried?" He says, "Number one is there anything you can do about it? Good. Then there's no need to worry. Do that thing. If there's nothing you can do about it, well, good. Then there's no need to worry because there's nothing you can do about it." So either way, and look, like, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to worry? But we do, and I understand. But it's just an interesting little reframe that might help us give us some perspective.
Yeah, that was good. There's one more question. It actually has to do with stoicism.
Okay.
Um, it's Stephen Rager says, how do you explain to people stoicism and being religious? One doesn't replace the other, but the two have a lot of overlapping guidance on right living. You can be Christian or Islamic and be a student of stoicism, but not a Christian and Islamic believer.
Yeah, a lot of people ask that actually when we talk about stoicism in Foundry inside the Iron Council, or we have somebody on the podcast that might address the issue of stoicism. There's a lot of Christians who say that it's antithetical to Christian theology. I actually don't know where I have not had anybody explain to me where they conflict, like
Hmm.
where the breakdown, where the divide is. As I understand Christianity, it's worshiping God and God alone, and recognizing his supreme authority and sovereignty over your life and over the world, over everything and everybody. That's what I understand Christianity to be as far as our worship goes.
Hmm.
Stoicism, that look, there's a lot of facets of stoicism, but to me, the way that I interpret stoicism is basically at the root is striving to understand yourself, your emotions, so you're not reacting to those things, and then mainly focusing on the things within your control. And maybe that's where the conflict is focusing on the things within your control, because I think a lot of Christians would say, well, nothing is in your control.
Hmm.
And I don't believe that. I'm a Christian. I don't believe that. I believe that God has sovereignty over us. I believe that he has his hand in all things. I believe that he knows everything from the beginning to the end, and there is no end, actually. Like, I believe all of that. And yet I don't know the plan. This is
Hmm.
okay. This is where I think we have free agency. So now we'll get into a completely different discussion, but it's one worth having. A lot of people say, oh, there's no free agency, there's no free will. If God says or knows what's going to happen from now until eternity, then you have no free will because it's already been mapped out. But I'll tell you why you have free will, because you and I don't know the plan. If we knew what the plan was, I would say that some of our agency would be stripped from us, because we would know what we would need to be doing. We would know where we would fall. We would know the consequence of every decision, and some of our agency would be stripped from us. But God has given us that agency. It's one of his greatest gifts that we get to choose for ourselves. And because we don't know what the plan is, we are freely deciding our best course of action. So maybe that's where the conflict is. When Stoicism says focus only on what's in your control, Christianity says nothing. I don't think it says that, but I think people
A
interpret
lot
it
of
to
people
mean that.
interpret it like that. Yeah.
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 That nothing is within our control. So just throw up your hands and do nothing about it. I mean, come on. Really? Like, people who have said that to me, is that really what you believe? That God says, hey, I'm in control of anything, everything, so don't worry about anything. Is that what you think God's saying to you? Because I don't think that. Never once believed that. But again, I don't know where the breakdown is. I think you can be a practitioner of stoicism. I don't think it conflicts with Christianity. It's weird. It's like you should only study and worship, the Bible. Really? Like, you can't read anything else? You can't hear from, I mean, when you go to church on Sunday, you listen to a pastor, for example, he's giving you his own personal interpretation. Are you saying you shouldn't listen to your pastor? He's giving you anecdotes and stories and experiences of his own life and what he happens to be going through from throughout the week. Are you saying because his story is not in the Bible that you shouldn't listen to it? Of course not. We should listen to it. Now we should interpret it through the lens of Christianity, but you should listen to it. There's so much good and there's so much great information out there, and it's not only and exclusively in the Bible. It's other places, and we should be looking for that because God has given us those lessons and those experiences and those stories and those anecdotes and those opportunities to grow ourselves. And if, by the way,
Yeah.
if you guys are listening and you think that the conflict is here between Stoicism and Christianity, then share it in a respectful way, but share it with me because I want to know. I haven't seen where the conflict is. I would love to know if there is one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there is. I think stoicism is more lies in your how you react to the circumstance around you
Mm-hmm.
than any other thing. And I think that's what Christianity is as well. It's Jesus talked a lot about the overreaction of things. That was his challenge with the Pharisees, was that they overreacted to the law. And so he was trying to teach the new law of, okay, it's not just this and this and that, like when he would heal somebody on the Sabbath, right? And the any of you who has a sheep who falls into the ditch, you would all help your sheep on the Sabbath. So why would you not heal somebody, right? And just so those kinds of things, you could say that's stoicism. Really, it's the overreaction to circumstance, and that's where Jesus brought in the higher law. So if you're saying you're a Christian, that's Jesus taught you to not just make it black or white in all circumstances, and that's what stoicism is too, right? There's no just black and white. That sometimes there's gray area, and you act accordingly, but either way, you don't overreact or underreact to those things. And it's kind of, when you were talking about the way some people talk about Christianity, it made me think of two things. It's the people that are like, oh, it'll all work itself out, God is great and he'll provide, but then they don't do any work to make those things happen in their lives. Like God never said it's just going to show up because you believe. On the other end of that, people think like, oh, well, I have grace because I'm a believer. Because I believe, I'm automatically forgiven. I don't think that's true either. I think there's work that you have to put in. And so, like, yeah, to just say you believe is like, obviously that's important, but you also have to believe that you believe, right? Like, faith without works is dead. So you have to put in the work. You have to show that you're willing to take action on those beliefs.
Yeah.
And so again, I think stoicism just falls into the realm of how we react to things, and that's being taught. It's taught in Christianity. It's taught in, if you're Muslim as well, it's taught in Buddhism. It's taught. I mean, most of the major religions are taught to. They're teaching you to calm your emotions, to be in pursuit of being stronger emotionally. And that's what stoicism, to me, that's what stoicism is.
Yeah. I mean, I hear from people who will say, well, you don't need to read Stoicism, just read the Bible. Well, that's fine. If that's what you want, because I think there are a lot of principles that are overlapping. That proves the point. Like,
Of course.
there's a lot
Yeah.
of principles that are overlapping, but I don't exclusively read the Bible. And if you do, that's fine. But, sometimes I want to read about something else. Sometimes I want to be entertained. Sometimes I want to laugh. Sometimes I want to be scared a little bit. It's like I want a lot of different things. And so yeah, I read and put different things into my mind. I'll just say this last thing, and I normally wouldn't share this, but I think it's important, especially as it relates to what you were saying about believing it'll all work out. I actually do. I believe that everything will work out in the end,
Me too.
but also we need to work. And so some of this, I'm hesitant to share this because I don't know. I've shared more of my faith over the past little bit, and I think it's important, but I'm still trying to find where that's appropriate. And some would say it's always appropriate, and some would say it's never appropriate. So I'm trying to figure out what it is for myself. But, when I talk to God, part of what I talk about is that he helps me to become an instrument in his hands to do good work. And that requires me to go to work. It would be like trying to build a home, but putting the hammer on the ground and not touching it and hoping that it miraculously, you know, I don't know, floats through air and starts hammering nails into the two by fours that you're building the home with. Like, no, the tool has to be utilized. It has to go to work. Or a saw. The saw has to be sharpened. It has to be oiled. It has to be taken care of, and then it has to be put to work. And then the other one of the other things that I often pray for and pray about is put people in front of me that need help. And really importantly, because there's always people you can help. So more importantly than that is help me recognize it.
Hmm.
Because there's always people who need help. Like we're not at a loss of people who need help around us. Sometimes we don't recognize it because we're too busy, or too self-centered, or we're too judgmental about who those people are. So just help me recognize it and then be an instrument the best that I can through your guidance. So take that for what it's worth.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's hard to recognize those things sometimes, right? It's like,
Yeah.
you could have a leaky roof and it's leaking on your face in the middle of the night while you're trying to sleep, and you get no sleep, and it makes you irritable and all these things. And you could be walking through your house the next day, and one of your kids leaves a hammer out and you stub your toe on it. And instead of like realizing, oh, look, I could grab that hammer and go maybe fix the roof, you curse the fact that, oh, now this is happening to me too, right? Like I stub my hammer on it, and my kids don't put stuff away. And like you could go
Good
one of two
point.
directions of like cursing all the things that are happening in your life, and how it's getting worse and worse when the actual things that could help you are placed in your way,
Yeah.
and you don't realize that they're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes distance helps with that a little bit, right? Is distance and time. If you extract yourself from the situation, you see things differently. And then over time, you're like, oh, man, I remember that being really, really bad. But now that I look at it, that's exactly what I needed. So distance and time.
Mm.
All right, brother. We had some great questions today. Appreciate those questions, guys. A good variety of questions, some thoughtful things to consider. Hopefully, we gave you some answers. Uh, Biggest thing right now, guys, is I would have you check out Iron Council's closed. The store is currently and temporarily closed. So biggest thing I'd have you check out right now is the 30 days to battle ready. So that's a series of 17 emails over 30 days that are going to help you figure out your vision, figure out what you want to accomplish these next 3 months, work you into some tactics, help you identify what those things that you can do on a daily basis are so that you can check those out, or check those off, I should say, and move towards what you want. So if you want to check that out, you can go to orderofman.com/battle ready. Orderman.com/battle ready.
Can
Anything
they
else,
get
Sean?
the battle planning app there as well, or do they go
Uh,
to the Apple
you have
Store,
to go to
whatever
the
it
App
is, to
Store or
iOS?
Google Play or whatever it's called, and you can get it there. 12-week battle planner is the official name, and you'll see the Order of Man logo on it. So 12-week battle planner on Apple or Google Play or Google Store, whatever it's called, and you'll be able to find it there.
Awesome. Appreciate you. These
Cool.
conversations always make me
Yeah, man.
better.
Always good. Likewise. All right, you guys. We will be back on Friday. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.